Building a strong relationship foundation is our next topic. And our sharers, I will be introducing to you guys. Our first of the two, because they are a couple, is Michael T. Manalaysay, MD, MBA H, FBPS, FPSN, FPNSP. Born and raised in Manila and lived most of his adult life in Davao City, he is Emeritus Fellow, Philippine Pediatric Society, Emeritus Fellow, Pediatric Nephrology Society of the Philippines, a Senior Fellow, Pediatric Society of Nephrology, Emeritus Consultant, Southern Philippines Medical Center, Emeritus Consultant, Davao Doctors Hospital. Furthermore, he is a papal awardee of Pope Benedict XVI in 2009, UST College of Medicine 150 years anniversary Most Outstanding Entrepreneur in 2023, also the Most Outstanding Pediatric Nephrologist in 2024. He was also nominated as the Most Outstanding Pediatrician in 2025. Dr. Mike is a pediatric nephrologist, a professor, and an academician, researcher, writer, entrepreneur, motivational speaker, and life coach, a husband, a father, and a son. He is a servant of the Lord. Before we welcome him on stage, I'd also like to introduce his wife, Patria Villacorta Manalaysay, RN, MAN, PhD, EDAD, PhD, NX, born and raised in Davao City. She is a Doctor of Philosophy in Nursing Science, Doctor of Nursing Science, Doctor of Philosophy, major in Education Administration with high distinction, Master of Arts in Nursing, Bachelor of Science in Nursing. Also, President, Pacific Nursing Organization Incorporated in 2023 until the current time, Dean of the College of Nursing in Ateneo de Davao University from 2000 to 2022, the top 4 nursing school nationwide. Furthermore, she is a Dean of the Davao Doctors College from the 1998 to 2000, top 1 nursing school nationwide. She was also a ASCO accreditor in 2004 to 2006, as well as in 2020 and again in 2025. A member of the Board of Trustees of the Davao Medical School Foundation 2013 to 2022. She received multiple awards over her lifetime as an organizer, a speaker, a writer of several nursing books, and in research. Dr. Pat is a nurse, an academician, researcher, writer, entrepreneur, motivational speaker, and life coach, a wife, a mother, and a daughter. She is also a servant of the Lord. Now, Dr. Mike and Pat have 3 grown-up children. Dr. Trisha, married to Adonis Tan, is an adult nephrologist. They have a cute baby girl, Patricia. The second is Dr. Patrick, an orthopedic surgeon, married to Dr. Rachel Ciudadano, an adult nephrologist. They have a son, Lucas Miguel, and also Dr. Philippe, anesthesiologist and pain specialist, married to Anne Maxino, and they have 2 kids. Both Dr. Mike and Dr. Pat have served the Archdiocese of Davao since 1994 to 2013 as leaders of the Bukas Loob sa Diyos Covenant Community and as founding president of the umbrella organization of lay faithful in the Archdiocese of Davao from 1997 to 2014. Dr. Mike is founding president of the Archdiocesan Nourishment Center, who has at least 7 feeding centers all over Davao and feeding almost 500 children from Monday to Saturday. They are still very active in the church, especially whenever the Archbishop calls for their service. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome on stage Dr. Mike and Dr. Pat.
Good afternoon to each and everyone present here this afternoon.
Afternoon.
Okay. May I know who are married couples here? Married? Yung married ones. Twice. Those who are singles. And of course, you plan to get married someday, right? Okay, so thank you for that very generous introduction. And it is with great pleasure to see many of you who are here familiar to us, and those also many who are not. And perhaps this is one encounter that we hope you will not forget, because we feel that we are here because we are called. And it's not because for any other thing, but we want to share with you whatever we have learned over 43 years of marriage. So, and also, we will be able to perhaps give you some of the advice that we have learned over the years. So, Pat, let's begin. Marriage is culturally a legally recognized union between people. By the way, we will have to read it because it will take the whole day for us to share. Alright, if we don't read it, definitely we will go beyond the time. Right? So it's a union between people called spouses that establishes rights, duties, and obligations between them, their children, and their in-laws. It is a legal and social contract often formalized through a ceremony in and out of a church setting. This unites two different individual people to form a family unit and provides them with legal protections such as inheritance rights, tax benefits, and all. Marriage is important because it provides a legal, stable, and socially recognized partnership for emotional support, companionship, and shared life goals. It benefits individuals by promoting better health and financial stability as well, while also contributing to society through the creation of stable family units for raising children.
On one hand, the Bible defines marriage as a sacred union between one man and one woman, established by God. The Bible tells us that marriage is important as a sacred, lifelong covenant created by God, intended for companionship, procreation, and mutual support, reflecting the relationship between Christ and the church. It is considered a unifying one-flesh union for a man and woman that is both a spiritual and practical partnership. The biblical view emphasizes that marriage is a divine foundation for family, which is essential for raising children in a loving environment and for personal growth and sanctification.
A married couple has a divine mandate to bear and raise children, which forms the family. The family is considered the basic unit of society because it is the primary social structure where individuals are born, socialized, and nurtured, learning core values, habits, and social roles. So without the family, there is no society.
Families are crucial for raising children, teaching them societal norms and morals, and that the health of a society is directly linked to the strength of its families. Thus, building a strong marriage builds a strong family builds a strong society, and a strong country.
What are the foundations of building a strong relationship? Before we proceed, let me just tell you about our story in a capsule. Because as I've said earlier, we can share with you the whole day. But let us just summarize it. And I will start. I am the eldest of a brood of 4. As the eldest, I was naturally showered with all the love and affection of my parents and those around me. I am honest and transparent with regards to my feelings. I love the outdoor life. I like meeting new friends. And I love the outdoor life. And of course, I love the social life.
I grew up in a family where love and affection was expressed not in terms of words, but by the presence of each one in the family. Being the youngest and only girl for some time, my conservative father and older brothers isolated me from the outside world. While my classmates were attending parties and meeting boys, I was at home feeling deprived and left out. But I learned to accept my fate in the hope that God will reveal His plan for me in the future.
I met Pat here in Davao when I was second year high school. Because from Manila, my father transferred with regards to his work to Davao. So during that time, I first saw Pat riding in a private jeep from school. For me, it was love at first sight because when I caught sight of her, I pursued and tried to find out who she was because I did not know who she was at the time. When I found out that she was the sister of my barkada, who never told me that he had a sister, right? So I asked my two siblings who were in the same school to send her letters and roses every day.
Mike was a popular guy in school. His persistence and showers of love and affection made my heart melt. He made me feel important and affirmed.
Maintaining our relationship at the time when we were in high school was very difficult because of our overly protected, because of Pat's overly protective family. It was rather short-lived because Pat transferred to Manila for her nursing school education. Before she left, she broke off with me without telling me why, without any reason. After a year, my father was called back to Manila for his another job, so we all transferred after my high school graduation in Davao.
The rigors of studying in Manila took its toll on me. So after a year in Manila, I went back to Davao to pursue my nursing career. After graduation, I joined the government bank as its nurse. I grew in maturity while in the bank. I found satisfaction in my job and enjoyed a certain degree of independence, which taught me to appreciate the marvelous blessings of life.
In Manila, I enrolled in a state university for my college degree and likewise entered medical school. Life in these two universities gave me a sense of freedom which allowed me to explore all that life can offer, including its temptations and anything else. At that point, I was a man of the world.
God led Mike and I to meet again exactly on the day we separated after 10 years of absence, May 29, 1982. The fondness and longing blossomed into a whirlwind affair that finally brought Mike and I together in marriage. I was overjoyed because it was a dream come true.
May konting side story pa doon. I was an intern in Manila when I met Pat and she was in Davao. So I had to escape my internship to visit Davao. And when I visited her, before I went back to Manila, that was like so many years that we have not seen each other. When I went back to Manila, we were already married. So my family was very, very stunned and surprised when I came back and I told them we got married. But for me, there was that immediate surge of happiness, and I was really overjoyed. And my long-term wishes at the time were fulfilled. And soon after that year, in December, we got married here in Davao.
The marital bliss we enjoyed was short-lived. I found it hard to give full expression of my love to Mike. We soon discovered a lot of differences between us, and there were several issues that we failed to resolve. We could not immediately find a common ground. He was driven and pursued his dreams of going into subspecialty studies, which, while I was content with what we had and what our status in life was at that time, I wanted to make him understand what I think and what I felt. My words were like arrows bouncing off his impenetrable shield. Mike's personality was strong, and he tends to be overreactive and overwhelming. Whatever Mike wants, he gets.
You can understand why I was like that, because of my background and where I studied. We were taught to think for ourselves, and that where I studied, I learned that you can change the future even if you wanted to. Pat and I started out with our joy in our hearts, especially after our first child was born. However, as years went by, I discovered that Pat was very reserved and not very expressive of her feelings, while I was the opposite. I am very affectionate and demonstrative, and there were so many times that I perceived that her inaction sometimes showed that she was insensitive and indifferent, and deep inside I felt that it was unfair. There were times when I felt she did not love me.
On the contrary, I felt that he was unreasonable and selfish. I did love him, though I may not express it the way he wanted. I was not raised up that way. I felt we failed our lesson in communication in all its forms. We failed to resolve the seen and the unseen difficulties between us. This piled up into a mountain of problems, and I cried to God for help. My God, why have you forsaken me? God heard prayers through my mother who helped me carry my cross. I turned to the Lord, my only hope of salvation.
At that time, I did not ask for help, and I also did not pray. I relied on my own strengths and abilities to battle the monsters I faced. But all my efforts led to my defeat and my downfall. I fell into the abyss of sin, which will take one day to elaborate also. Romans 7:17 aptly described my state of being. It is no longer I who did it, but sin that dwells in me. I destroyed our once peaceful home and turned it into a place of conflict and desolation.
Mike and I parted for a while. He finished his subspecialty, and I went to the United States as a nurse. However, our plans were not God's plan for us. While Mike was in training, he brought 2 of our children with him. It was through our daughter, who was then 6 years old, that Mike realized the grave mistake, the hurt and injustice he committed, not only to his family but to those people around him. he asked me to come back to the Philippines.
When Pat came home, I felt the love I lost has returned. Joy and happiness overwhelmed me. However, my road to Emmaus was not going to be simple and easy. Whenever we were together, whenever Pat would remember the past, she would suddenly turn cold and indifferent. These were hard times for me. And this was the point that opened my eyes to the scene or to the reality that my sins that I have created is turning against me. So I turned to God for help.
God answered our prayers. He brought people our way to help and lead us to a Catholic community that opened our hearts. All the community activities brought us to a closer relationship with God and His church. We were able to open our eyes to see, our ears to listen, and our hearts to feel for each other and those around us. In Hebrews chapter 10, verses 19 to 22, states that through Christ, believers can draw near with a true heart in full assurance of faith and enter God's presence, reflecting a closer relationship with God and His church.
Those times we really had struggled, but when our eyes were open, our hearts were open to each other, we felt that we have entered into a new life with Christ. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 17 says, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come, the old has gone, and the new is here." We felt that God was slowly transforming our lives as husband and wife. And with our 3 children and 4 grandchildren over the years, our family is becoming whole. Since 1991, we have offered our lives to the Lord, to love Him and to serve Him, and also others. That is why we are here today, to share His love and saving power to all those who hear. The process of change and internal conversion between us and in our family is still ongoing after 31 years. And it will only stop until the last day. The Lord assures us in Romans 8:28, we know that all things work for good for those who love and serve the Lord.
At this point, let me share the first and basic foundation of a strong marriage, which is in the Word of God. Ephesians 5 verses 21 to 23 reminds us, be subordinate to one another out of reverence for Christ. Wives should be subordinate to their husbands as to the Lord. For the husband is head of his wife, just as Christ is the head of the church, He Himself the Savior of the body. As the church is subordinate to Christ, so wives should be subordinate to their husbands in everything.
It continues, husbands, love your wives even as Christ loved the church and handed Him over for her to sanctify her, cleansing her by the bath of water with the word, and that He might present to Himself the church in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or any such thing, that she might be so that she might be holy without any blemish. So husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no one hates his own flesh, but rather nourishes and cherishes it, even as Christ does the church, because we are members of His body. And Ephesians 5:31 further states, For this reason, a man shall leave his father and his mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh.
Ephesians 5 explains that the most essential foundation of the union of two persons is in sharing the gratuitous love of God. It refers to God's love that is freely given, unearned, and undeserved, like a pure gift. It is selfless, without conditions, and does not seek any reward. A blessed and long-lasting union is characterized by, number 1, mutual submission. The passage begins with a general call for all believers to submit to one another out of reverence for God. 2, wives' role. Wives are instructed to submit to their husbands as to the Lord.
For the husband's role, the husbands are commanded to love their wives sacrificially, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. And last, for the husband's love, this love is described as nurturing and cherishing, like how a man loves his own body, nourishing and caring for it. A man should cherish and take care of his wife as he takes care of his own. Ultimately, husbands are to love their wives as themselves, and wives also to respect their husbands. God and His love are the most basic, fundamental component of a marital life. It has something to do with a person's self-image of himself or herself loving himself or herself, not because of anything else, but because he feels the love of God inside him. So the couple should derive their love for one another from the love of God. And this is foremost.
The second foundation is open communication. It is important to cultivate and nurture open communication. Communication should be constructive and truthful, avoiding harmful words. Matthew chapter 12, verse 34 says, "For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks."
Pat and I, at the beginning of our marriage, were talking and engaging, but we were not really communicating in the right manner. In the past, some discussions easily turned into arguments, and arguments turned into real conflicts. Anger and resentment cut deep, and all of this fester into a non-healing wound and persist over time, causing symptoms of constant defensiveness, criticism, contempt, and even evasion. The road to good and open dialogue is not easy, but after 43 years of marriage, Pat and I have learned so much that we want to share the following tips to all of you.
Build up your spouse. Speak only what is helpful and builds up as fits the occasion, to give grace to those who hear. Number 2, control your tongue. Be mindful of your words, as the tongue, though small, is powerful and can be a destructive force. Spoken words can hurt a spouse through verbal abuse like insults, sarcasm, or yelling, which damages their self-esteem and causes emotional distress, leading to distrust and resentment. In the long term, this can erode the foundation of the relationship, causing lasting mental and emotional wounds. If you don't have anything good to say, keep it to yourself. Number 3, listen before you speak. People hear, but they don't listen. Listening requires active attention, understanding, and empathy. Take the time to listen to others, which is essential for wisdom and empathy. Number 4, be slow to anger. Control your temper, as a hasty temper can lead to foolishness. Practice calming techniques like deep breathing and taking a time out to avoid escalation. Speak truthfully with love is the final one. Even difficult truths should be delivered in a loving way so they are more likely to be received. Communication is important in a relationship because it builds trust, helps resolve conflicts, and strengthens emotional intimacy. It allows partners to understand each other's needs and feelings, prevents misunderstandings, and provides a way to support one another and grow together.
So the first is God's love. Second is open communication. And the third important foundation is trust and respect. Trust can be eroded by dishonesty, lack of integrity, broken commitments, especially infidelity. So, for spouses, be honest. Trust is built on truthfulness and transparency. Avoid secrets. Be honest about your feelings and be open with whatever you're doing. Share whatever your thoughts and your feelings are. Be consistent. Whenever you commit, follow on with your commitments and with actions. Consistency shows that you are reliable, which builds trust. Set and respect boundaries. Establish some boundaries between you and your spouse. Respect your spouse for who she is, or he is. Because he is different from you. He's a unique individual. Make sure to respect that. And of course, show appreciation. Acknowledge and appreciate the effort your partner puts into everything. Even just a simple household work should be appreciated by husbands because it's really something that is not easy to do.
In other words, work on the relationship together. Work on your relationship together. Prioritize open communication. Spend quality time together and manage conflict constructively. You should also express appreciation, support each other's personal growth, and build each other up through shared experiences and consistent effort. Number 1, spend quality time together. Try to spend meaningful time together doing activities you both enjoy. 2, share values and goals. Discuss your shared values and work towards common goals for your future. And lastly, resolve conflict constructively. Avoid winning an argument. Instead, work together to compromise and find a solution that respects both of your needs.
What Pat is saying is spend quality time together. I'm a very busy person, but whenever I'm home in Davao, I spend time with her and my family. And time is dinner, lunch, or any time that we can just sit and watch a movie is already quality time. And we spend that also with our children and our apo. And we make sure that every week we spend time together as a family. And one of the things that we also handed down to our children is make your own personal vision and mission. Each one of us should have our own personal mission and vision that is attuned to the couple's shared mission and vision as well as the family. And your personal mission and vision should be aligned with the work that you do. Because if you're doing work that is not aligned with what you want and what you are going to be happy about, I don't think you are in that right profession. And many times conflicts arise because of what we have just said, miscommunication. Even in the corporate world, miscommunication is the number one reason for conflicts. So, Pat and I have experienced a lot of conflicts during our early years of marriage and even up to now. But now we know how to resolve that. We don't argue anymore because we always tell each other, ang tanda na natin, mag-aaway pa ba tayo? Maghihiwalay tayo at this point? Parang it's not even thinkable, right? So, at any point in a married life, what happened to us when we separated, though only for a while, is not acceptable. Everyone should resolve their own conflicts together. Because it cannot be a one-way street. It can never be resolved. So first, one has to acknowledge the wrong that was done. Forgive, not only like in your thoughts, but you have to tell the other person or your spouse, I forgive you. Please forgive me. It has to be verbalized. And then, repair the wrong that you have done. There must be reparation for complete resolution. There are many relationships, even friendships, that have ended up with each other forgiving one another, but never resolving the issues. How do you know that your conflict was resolved ideally or properly? One, whenever you see that friend or your spouse the next day, you don't feel any rancor or you don't feel any bitterness. And you can look at that person or your spouse in the eye, and that means that you have really forgiven and started the healing process because it will take time. Reparation takes time. The wrong that I did during our early marriage, like 37 years ago, I'm still repairing it today. You cannot repair the wrong that you've done in 1 year. It takes a long time. And then the resolution comes if all of this, whenever you think about the problems that you've had, like we've had, we can talk about it. Without any anger, without any resentment. And it's just a memory. We don't believe that whatever happened in the past is past and let's forget it, because you can never forget something that happened. You're just sweeping it under the rug. You have to resolve it in a Christian way, in a loving way, in God's way. So all that we have been sharing with you as advice, tips, or strategies are based on our actual experiences that we were able to overcome.
Conflict resolution in marriage involves a combination of effective communication, empathy, and a willingness to compromise to solve problems constructively rather than to win. Use I statements. Express your feelings and thoughts using I feel statements to avoid sounding accusatory, because feelings are neither right nor wrong. For example, say, I feel angry when I'm not cold, when you're late. Instead of you always making me angry by not calling. Practice active listening. Give your partner your full attention. Listen to understand their perspective and don't interrupt. Try to understand the underlying feelings behind the words. And no grave digging. Communicate directly and clearly. Be clear and concise in your communication to avoid getting lost in a flood of words. State what you mean directly and avoid making your partner mind read. Avoid blame and personal attacks. Stick to the specific issue at hand and refrain from name-calling, insults, or bringing up unrelated past issues. We would like to emphasize that there's a need for one as being able to set the stage for resolution. Pray before, during, and after an argument. Choose the right time and place. Choose a time for difficult conversations when you are both calm and can give the issue your full attention. Avoid starting conversations when emotions are already high or during stressful moments. You can go to a chapel or a church or a place that gives you peace, like your bedroom, a beach, a hilltop, or any venue that you have identified both. Do not argue in front of your children. Do not argue while one is driving. Take time out. If the discussion becomes too heated, agree or on a signal to take a time out. Someone leads the other to pray. This allows both partners to cool down and prevents the conversation from escalating beyond productive levels.
One of the stages for conflict resolution is changing your mindset. One of the mistakes I made in the past was I wanted to change Pat into the mold that I want her to be. I cannot change somebody else who is not. So, our advice is do not try to change your spouse because we are all unique individuals, different upbringings, different family environment, different educational backgrounds. There will always be differences. So the advice is try to look into the strengths and the good points of your spouse, not on the weaknesses. Do not compete with your spouse, but rather complement each other because whatever she is weak in, I can, because of my strength, complement that. And whatever my weakness is, Pat can complement that. So always focus on problem solving, not winning. View any conflict or issue as a shared problem that can be solved together and not a competition to win. The goal always is to strengthen the relationship and not to come out of it on top. Always be compromising. Try to find a win-win situation. And of course, one of the things that one has to accept is my wife or my spouse can be imperfect, but I love her and I will try to find ways to lift her up, to improve whatever I think I can help her out with, but not to change her according to what I want or what I think. And of course, what is family that is around us for? So we have to ask help sometimes, and even that's why there are ninangs, and then best men and best bridesmaids because they're there to help us. I just wanted to add, we don't want to get ninongs and ninangs because they're the president of the Philippines or a senator or a congressman that you cannot even approach.
At this point, I would like to share with you a take-home message. To build a strong relationship foundation, focus on open communication, mutual respect, and trust through active listening, honesty, and setting clear boundaries. Nurture the connection by spending quality time together, showing support and appreciation, and working together to resolve conflicts and shared goals.
But most important of all, always place God at the center of your marriage. He is the great source of love, guidance, and strength. Live in accord with His Word and His will. Love Him with all your hearts and minds. Trust in His plan for your marriage, and be empowered by Him to love, respect, and forgive each other while embracing each other's God-given roles. Allow Him to lead you and your children to the future as one happy and peaceful family. Thank you very much.